Legislative Commission to study infrastructure projects and private supportive infrastructure projects in the state of Rhode Island. My name is Sean Coffey. I'm the chairman. Would you take the roll, CJ?
Certainly, Chairman. Chairman Coffey?
Here.
Timothy Scanlon? Here. Michael McNally? Daniel Egan? Richard Bernardo?
Here.
John Simmons?
Here.
Gary Zofsky?
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Great. We have a quorum. I'll call the meeting to order. We have a couple of areas of business today. I'm going to start a little bit in reverse order in order to accommodate some of the speakers from outside. The first order of business was to call on individuals from industry and government groups and others who wish to be heard on the subject of public-private partnerships as they impact their programs and their business in Rhode Island. And then, relying on a colleague of mine from Burns & Levinson out of our Boston office, we'll do a presentation with respect to the current authority for public-private partnerships for both state government, independent agencies, and also municipalities in the state of Rhode Island. That'll give you a sense of the current authority that exists right now. But again, as I mentioned, I'm going to defer first to a member of the public, Bruce Iannuccillo, thank you very much, who's representing certain industry groups. I'd ask you to come forward and identify yourself and your associations and make your presentation. I understand that you have some written materials that you'd like to also present? Proceed.
Is this on? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Again, my name is Bruce Iannuccillo, and I'm representing the National Utility Contractors Association of Rhode Island. We're a trade organization with many Rhode Island companies and members from Massachusetts and Connecticut as associate members, et cetera, and our typical trade organization. As part of our national association, we currently get information similar to this white paper on public-private partnerships that I'm here to speak on today. One of the points I want to make is in another organization called the Associated General Contractors of America, of which I am also a member of the local Rhode Island chapter, of which I hold positions as secretary in both the NUCARI and the AGC of Rhode Island. What I want to tell you, this is probably one of the best white papers that I've read that really helps the contractors who may be considering a public-private partnership. And in this report, and I'm not going to get redundant and read the whole thing, but I've highlighted areas. But the two issues that they did publish particularly is the legislative issues that is what you're about, and also the concerns for contractors coming into and considering a public-private partnership. Now, first and foremost, this may not be right for all contractors, and particularly the smaller contractors, even like myself, although we have members who actually participate today in projects that you would probably consider for public-private partnerships, or that they would qualify for that. But we all work from time to time with each other, being a state that provides many opportunities. Ourselves, as well as our other member companies, small and medium and large alike, have something to gain from public-private partnerships for inclusion. Now, one of the things that I just wanted to talk about with the enabling legislation that I saw was that, once the legislation is provided for, there are always benefits and there's also risks, associated with it. We know that what the public-private partnership is, it's another funding vehicle to bring projects to fruition, especially in light of the fact that, that the available funds may not be ready. The state may not be able, or the city or local towns may not be in a position to, put their bond issues out or vote for them, or they just, they may have some different choices that prevent them from doing it more timely. But we know that public-private partnerships have been around for, since the early 2000s anyway, from my research. But the part that I want to tell you about the enabling legislation is that we believe that the public-private partnership can work, and that and I want to go on the prevailing wage, because most of the work that we do in Rhode Island is public. It's publicly funded, and we're subject to the prevailing wage. Those are items that can be included, and we think that it should be, because if a public-private ship were to come into the state of Rhode Island and there weren't those types of trades, then we would have some of the similar problems that we had in the past that actually created the need for, the prevailing wage back in the Taft-Hartley Act days and beyond. So we feel that's one thing that definitely needs to happen in the enabling legislation. The other thing I wanted to say was, we've already been in on projects that were, like we worked with power plants, and, we work in the water and wastewater industries, and we do utility work, replacing pipes, as well. And one of the points that I see with these projects is that lost my place. Hold on a second. The role of these of our work in these public-private partnerships can be anything to, very small to very large. And although we don't want to see, contractors, smaller contractors excluded, we're very much in support of them. But the thing that I wanted to say was, and it's coming back, on page 13, you're going to see a chart, and what it talks about is the typical contractor responsibilities versus the shift to, one of the reasons for private-public partnerships. These projects that come into fruition, the contractors need to be, whether it's a team, need to come to the forefront when public-private partnerships are taking root, because there is a certain value of experience that contractors can bring to the table, not just with the surety and the bonding and whoever's financing the project, but also from the practical standpoint of when we look at a project, it's all about risk management, and we're not special to that. So we take and we look and we try to, examine before we bid a project, like we would with some of these private entities. We want to know what the risks are, so we're evaluating them. And when we can do that, rather than having a project that's just given to us to bid and it's already been done, maybe we can bring some value engineering into the programs. The other thing that I want to say, and I'll leave it brief because you can read the reports on your own, is that there are projects that exist in Rhode Island now that began at some of the water and wastewater treatment plants that basically started as a design, build, operate. Or first they started as come in, city, town said come in and run our plant. And there was a proposal, and these private companies would come in and they ran the plants. And then, they took it to the next level and said, hey, can you build a plant, design, build, and operate. And they did that as well. And then they also said to some of these companies, can you operate the plant and do capital improvements into these plants? So technically, it works, and it works well with the water and the wastewater industry. I guess the challenge is can it work across other areas like building construction or the infrastructure? We know that DOT and the likes, there are other areas. So with that, I guess my only or my recommendation is that let's listen to the contractors when they're talking about the ways and means, because eventually the contractor does come to the table and does have some say in it, and we work with the engineers now anyway when we're involved in the project. So a collaboration of sorts, I think, will provide the benefit of what you're looking for through a public-private partnership. Lastly, in this report, there are some examples in there, and I just want to point out the task force that was that came and put this together or consulted, William Choquette with Gilbane Development Company, which most of us all know who Gilbane is. You can't live in Rhode Island in construction and not know who Gilbane is. So he was part of that. And some of the examples in there are some of the projects that they did either down in West Virginia or in Houston, other areas that that recognized the needs and the value of public-private partnerships. So I just want to close by saying I think it's a good thing. I think the Commission's on the right track. Whatever we can do as the National Utility Contracts Association of Rhode Island for the utility end of it, or even the Associated General Contractors. Just ask. We're available to sit on boards to work through any of the questions that you may have, and to bring Rhode Island into a more physical state. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bruce. Well, do any of the members of the Commission have any questions? If you don't mind, I have a couple.
Sure.
I've got some experience myself in doing design, build, operate procurements project delivery method for wastewater and water plants throughout Rhode Island. And as you know, wastewater plants, water plants have either been significantly upgraded or built new in Woonsocket, East Providence, Newport, Cranston. I know I'm leaving some out, Pawtucket. And I'm assuming that your membership has had involvement in those projects. How would you rate their experience? Do you have any information about what they thought of that approach to those projects?
We've not heard anything that was terrible. The projects were built, or they're being operated. There's some that are continuing. It is a far more extensive process to bring the project to fruition. You have to have an engineering team, you have to have a construction team, and obviously you got to bring financing to the equation, private monies, et cetera, and then you have to meet with the owners and the owners of the municipality, if you will. And I've not heard anything bad with these. That's why I said that these quasi-public-private partnerships that exist today kind of work, and they work because one of the key things with them is, we always have to provide for water and wastewater, the plants are expensive. We get that. We understand that. But there's a good reliance upon the monies necessary to operate them. It works. I don't hear anything negative to answer the question.
Your membership focuses primarily on the design build side of it as opposed to the operations, or do you have...
We're mostly on the construction side, so not so much in the design build, but in the actual, shovels in the ground, and there's a good mix of open and closed shops, union and non-union, and we all seem to coexist, and
And I think as you mentioned, and I believe this is the case with the projects that I haven't been directly involved with, but many of these construction portions of the project are based on prevailing wage and other requirements, minority, women, business enterprises, all of those requirements that are often imposed by the federal financing laws are required of those entities, as well as under Rhode Island law. And that,
Yes.
I take it that your membership that have been involved in these projects haven't found any issues with respect to.
No, there was only ever one utility. I don't want to say it's a public utility. It's one of those fire districts that doesn't insist on prevailing wage, and somehow they're able to get around it, and it's down in the southeast part of the state. And we simply don't. We just can't compete down there. That's why I'm saying it's particularly important for the skill levels or the skill sets that you need for the type of work. Water utilities is relatively 5 feet in the ground, 12-inch mains. It requires a level of skill. But if you're going in and you're doing the 24 or 30-inch or 60-inch, 108-inch type lines, they're deeper. There's more to it. It's not a simple, as simple as going through in that way there. So we've always found that the trades, well, we're a union company, but the trade organizations have been providing the level of skilled work. The apprentice, right now the apprentice is an issue in all trades. It's whether you're union, non-union, and that's not going to change. We know the demographics have already been stated. We're an aging. You think our infrastructure is aging? Well, our workforce is aging just as well. But we're making a start. We're in the schools. There are some other areas that I'm involved in with, it's called Building Futures, where they're doing pre-apprenticeship. We're involved in the schools. We are addressing that problem. We are going to be strong in the next, 5 to 10 years. We're definitely ramping up, and we're meeting the need. So for the type of work, the heavy construction that we do, the more money that we invest in our companies now and in our trades, that will cause us to continue to be a strong effort. We don't only just work in Rhode Island. We work across the state's borders too. Many of us, as utility, we're in Massachusetts, Connecticut, New Hampshire, and elsewhere.
Out of curiosity, I know it's not our topic, but are you having difficulty finding this level of skill among the employees within Rhode Island? Are you find the necessity to reach outside of the state borders? Do you think there's anything that could be done to improve our apprenticeship programs to generate people with the requisite skills?
In the previous decades, and we're a 30-year company, where take the power plant industry. When they deregulated the power plants, then we built Tiverton Power Plant was out there. They were revamping the power plant down, the one down in Fox Point, India.
Right, Manchester Street.
Manchester Street. You had the other ones up in Ocean State Power. We had the one over at the Blackstone. Up at the central landfill. That was actually to the one on the landfill and the one across the street. When those jobs come in, and you got like Amgen that was going on, pharmaceuticals, you couldn't get the right labor. So we were inundated, and there were travelers. So we saw a lot of travelers coming in from other, suppressed areas. Just like we had a lot of tradespeople going up to work on projects that were up in like Syracuse, over the last 2 years. And they go up to Boston every day. So we're managing, but to say, if we have to ramp up for this, for what's coming up, and there's a lot of work coming in, private work too, we're going to be challenged. So there's a great effort underway, and I know that that the governor's office is working for, as well as everybody. We're trying to, make the unskilled worker to skill to the to the skill set that we need.
One of the advantages we look to P3s for in terms of project delivery is being able to get the projects underway sooner, with that kind of project delivery method. The problem with doing it sooner is that if you have too many going sooner, you overburden the available workforce and the trained employees. So it's a balance. And what what we seek out of this kind of public investment, even with private support, is a real economic development impact locally. That's one of the benefits of this kind of an approach.
I believe the contractors in a P3 scenario will be far better to recruit their talent, even if that means, hiring from out of state and bringing them in. But when you just use a regular bid program like we currently use, I don't know if we're going to get the job until we bid it. And then usually that job's coming and, it's awarded in, let's say, an average of 5 weeks, 6 weeks. But granted, the permitting and the design is already done. But if we have 3 or 4 of those jobs and that they get let, again, I've been in that scenario where we have an an A-level workforce right now, and we've had it for the last 3 years because we have all our nuggets in labor and operators, truck drivers, teamsters, you name it, they're all there. But once they get diluted, we're no different than anybody else. Maybe we got a B team.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But early on, if we're involved in the process, most companies are able to address labor because they know it's coming on, and it's not like it's not happening, in 6 weeks. Usually these projects are 3 to 6 months, if not longer in the design. So I'm comfortable that
that's true.
We'll be able
given
to.
that you've absorbed the design into a P3 type of project, you're going to typically there's going to be a longer lead time before the project gets into the ground,
Right.
so to speak, and you can.
And even the engineering and the management, I mean, we learned a lot from the power plant groups when they came in. And one of the comments that they used to say was they never knew who the client was because the developers really came in, permitted it, and then once it was approved, they sold it back. So, you had all these investment groups that were out there, and what they did was they would come in with a team that was, all around the United States even, and that's how they put management teams to do the construction, and then they relied upon us as local talent
to do the work.
Yeah, to control labor and to make the best of it.
Any other questions or comments at this point? Thank you very much. Really
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck.
I have a white paper. You're going to leave that behind with
Yep.
Mr. Donovan. So
He's gotten a copy of it already. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. We had, just so those in attendance know, we had invited a number of other communities. Unfortunately, we didn't pin down our date. We're getting close to the holidays here. It gets a little bit tougher. So we've invited other members of state and local government agencies such as Department of Administration, Department of Transportation, some of the quasi-public agencies to participate as well as communities. Again, given the time of year, they weren't available. We will probably have another session in early mid-January, at which we'll try to schedule well in advance an opportunity for those interested parties to also come in and make their presentations and commentary. I don't believe I'm just asking, is there anybody else in attendance who would like to speak? Yes, sir. Could you come forward and identify yourself?
I believe our friend left his white paper.
Uh-oh.